esteemed Toastmasters and guests. At some point in your life, you have probably dealt with difficulties. You've probably had points in your life when you felt really low. For some of us, we have reached a point in our lives where we weren't sure how to move forward, where things felt so completely desolate and pointless, and we saw no way out, and we had reached our breaking point. Today I'm here to talk to you about my personal breaking point. It was June 13th, 2010. And even though it's been a little over 7 years ago, it still affects me. On June 13th, I lost my dog. His name was T-Bone, which was short for Tiberius Bones. He was a rat terrier, and he was a week shy of 19 months old. Months, not years. Losing him was my breaking point. But what a lot of people didn't understand was it wasn't just one thing. It was a lot of little things that had been building up for months upon months upon months. And compound that with the fact that I've been dealing with mental illness issues from a very young age, a severe lack of support. When I reached my breaking point, I saw no other alternatives. When I got the call from the vet that morning, I went and said goodbye. I cried until I felt like there was nothing left. And when I handed over his lifeless corpse back to the veterinarian, I knew what I needed to do, and I was overcome with a sense of calm. I felt peace. I was okay because I knew what I was going to do. On my way home, I called on the cell phone and left messages because thankfully nobody answered the phone. Or at least at the point I was at then, I was thankful no one answered, although now it probably would have been better if they had. I went home and I took a bottle of pills that I had and a random beer because I don't drink. It was in my refrigerator and I chugged as much as I could. I left my phone on the table and I grabbed my keys and my wallet, the intent of going to a hiking trail where we used to hike together. But as I was in my car, instead I made a detour and drove to PetSmart. To this day, I am beyond thankful that no one was involved in a car accident. I'm not sure how I made it to PetSmart. And when I spoke with the manager who came out, who was a friend of mine, who loved T-Bone almost as much as I did, she could sense something was wrong and asked someone to call 911. In my mind, I asked her in a very logical, coherent form to take my keys and my wallet, clean out my apartment so my family wouldn't be burdened with that. As I was living in Colorado, we were still here in Georgia. I asked her to clean out my stuff and to take it and sell it off, pay off any outstanding bills, and then donate the rest to a charity in his honor. Apparently what actually happened is I passed out after mumbling a few words. The paramedics arrived. I spent the next 2 days in the ICU, most of the time on a ventilator. I was told they did an EEG to verify I even had brain function. As I'm sure you've all guessed, I ended up in the hospital after that in a psych unit. I was there for roughly a week. Before I was discharged, everybody thought I was doing okay. I really wasn't, but I was able to even fool myself into believing that I was okay. I was out for a few weeks. Ended up having a psychotic break after not sleeping for close to 48 hours. Really don't recommend that, although you get to see some really cool stuff. I was taken back to the hospital where I spent less than 24 hours, got some sleep to discharge me. And then once again, I ended up in the hospital a few weeks after that and was kept longer. Was discharged again, and then again ended up back in there on a shorter time frame this time because I've had another break. And the reason I'm telling you this is because the hardest thing for me wasn't the breaking point. And there were signs that people missed. And looking back on them, I can see them. I had started withdrawing. I was talking about death. I was thinking about it constantly. I was in a lot of pain because he was sick before he died. And people miss these things. I tried to give stuff away. I gave declaration of love to people that I normally wouldn't. And I was saying goodbye and nobody recognized it. I was lucky. So those are some of the warning signs you should look for. But like I said, that wasn't the hardest part for me. The hardest part for me was when I got out of the hospital all 4 times. Because people started to treat me differently. If you're in the hospital because of a physical illness, people will come and visit you and ask you if you're okay. They'll offer to make meals. They will do what they can to support you. But when you have a mental illness, oh God, no, I might catch it. Oh, we gotta be careful. We don't want to set you off again. We don't want you to feel suicidal again. But that loneliness and that isolation makes it so much worse and so much harder to deal with.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and close this off, and before I do, there's one piece of advice I want to give everybody out there. The night before I attempted suicide, I had gone and I had requested help, but because of my history, I was ignored. They told me to go home and stop playing games. They didn't have time for that. So please, if you hear someone that is talking about death, and they're talking about suicide, and they're talking about ending their life, I don't care if it's the first time or the 100th time or the 1000th time. I don't care if you think they're playing games. Listen to them, take them seriously, and try to get them some help. And when they are out of the hospital, be there for them, support them. Don't isolate them when they need the support the most. Thank you.
Sergeant of Arms, could you please escort our 2 evaluators to the sequester room?
This one.